Hey everyone, welcome back to another Financial Beast podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Eric Miller, your BFFF, best financial friend forever. And I did another Between Two Erics with Eric Gersch. And this is where we tackled an uncomfortable subject, but one that needs to be talked about: financial traps for you to avoid. Now, look, if you're a healthcare owner, you're a doctor, you know, you guys put a ton of time into learning your trade, starting to make some money, then you guys fall into some traps. So we address what those traps are, give you some insight on how to avoid them. But most importantly, just make sure that you're not doing anything that's going to be destructive to your long-term financial survival. So I think it's definitely worth the listen to. I hope you guys enjoy it. And as always, please give us some indication that you like our podcast, comment on it, do anything that you can to help promote this so that we can continue to get this material out to healthcare owners that desperately need this information. If you guys have any healthcare owners that you work with, that are friends, that are colleagues, that need help, make sure that you connect them with us. They can go to our website, Econologics Financial Advisors, and we have a lot of material there for them where they can just schedule an intro call. And I think that will be a good deed that you did today, and you'll be proud of yourself because you did that. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Be well. All right, we're talking about financial traps that healthcare doctors get themselves into that you guys definitely want to try to avoid. Now, we've had the benefit of helping, hundreds and hundreds of people that own their own practice and see patients. But there are definitely a lot of traps that we've seen people get themselves into. And we want to talk a little bit today about what some of those traps are and how you guys can avoid some of those traps.
Yep.
Definitely, it makes sense. I can't imagine what it's like going through medical school. I know it's like, you went to school probably for 7 years, and I know you didn't get a medical degree, did you?
I'm a self-taught doctor.
Exactly.
Reminds me of that quote from The Hangover. Like, Alan, some people do go to school for 8 years. They're called doctors.
Exactly. I think that was from Tommy Boy.
Or was it Tommy Boy? I know it was one of those comedy movies.
I've been to school for 7 years. That's right. They're called doctors.
Yeah. So, maybe it was Tommy Boy, not The Hangover.
So look, I can't imagine the amount of studying and all that goes into having to become a medical professional.
Oh yeah, it's a commitment.
I can see right now my niece's husband is going through that. He's in his residency, and they just get paid piss poor right now. And he's working hundreds and hundreds of hours to get through all that. And, she makes more than he does.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I can see what happens then when you all of a sudden, okay, now here I am. I'm either an associate doctor, or even if my practice that I started is starting to make some money right now. Okay. So then we start getting into some of these consumption traps.
This is where the traps happen. Yep.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with spending money on yourself. You got
to enjoy your life.
You have to.
Yeah.
You guys just have to avoid overcommitting yourselves.
Yep.
Because that's all you're doing.
Yeah, it's no different than if you're a non-doctor, I think part of it with doctors too, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I just had this thought is, like you said, going to medical school is a hell of a commitment. Most of these people aren't graduating and done with residency or externships or whatever they're called in their industry. But a lot of these people aren't done with school and all of its commitments until their late 20s.
Yep.
And by then, by your late 20s, all your friends who didn't go to medical school, who got a bachelor's and, went off and got a job, they've already been working for, 3 to 5 years. And now you probably to some degree, maybe you don't even realize it, but you feel like you're playing catch up.
I get it. Yeah.
And that's not even to mention another thought. You probably have 8 years of student loans versus your buddies who had 4 years or 3 years of student loans, So you're coming out of school later, and you're coming out with more debt.
Yes.
So from the beginning, you're, I don't want to say you're starting behind the 8 ball, because you're not. Your earning potential over your career is probably much higher than your friends, but you're coming out in a tricky position. Let's say that.
So I think the first trap is that initial phase of when you start making some money. Trap.
Yep.
Okay. It's that initial phase. It's
Yep.
It's like that initial moment. Okay, good. So I'm making, 20,000 a month or whatever it is, 25, whatever it is. I'm going to buy some stuff.
Oh yeah. The first thing right there, the first thing that we see is house and car.
$80,000 car.
Yep.
$80,000 car.
Which $80,000 car, 5 years ago was like super nice, but now an $80,000 car is like an average American made SUV.
It's so sad, man. It's so sad. And honestly, nobody gives a shit what kind of car you drive.
No, the only person who cares is you.
Yeah. So do you really need the $80,000 car?
No, probably not. Definitely not.
If you can't pay cash for it, why would you get an $80,000 car?
Yeah. And if you're doing that, you're not focusing on paying down your student loans and your other stuff. You're focused on this car that has a $2,000 a month payment.
$2,000 a month payment. And, you can even look at that. Oh yeah. I mean, there's just so many problems with that, but I get it. They come out. I need a Mercedes. I need a BMW. I need the nice Range Rover, whatever it is.
Yep. That's trap one.
So that's trap one. That and the home as well.
Yes.
I would say
too big of a home.
Yeah. Too big of a home.
You need a home. You got to have a place to live, but
but how many times are you going to move around technically in your life?
Oh God, I've probably moved around 18 times already.
Okay. And what would the benefit be of buying that first huge home? Okay. And because you're probably going to move 5 years, 10 years.
Maybe. I mean,
somewhere around there.
If you're a doctor who just graduated medical school and is going to work at the hospital, yeah, you may move in 5 years. But if you're, a doctor who's setting up a practice somewhere, you're more than likely going to have roots in that community for decades.
Exactly.
So it differs.
It may differ. I just think that if when you're first starting out right there, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go buy a home.
No, your first home doesn't have to be your dream home.
No, it's not. It doesn't have to be a dream home. Be in a nice neighborhood. You can rent, right? Which is right now, it's probably cheaper to do that.
Yep.
With the interest costs and everything like that, and not have any attachments to that. I'm trying to limit the amount of attachments and obligations that people have in that initial phase right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think what I've seen successful for young people is that if they really just attacked their student loan debt, attacked it.
Yep.
And I'm not saying you have to live like a student, because you don't have to live like a student still. But, you don't have to have a mountain of obligations. You don't want to mount up a mountain of obligations on yourself.
No.
Okay. So I think that first trap is don't create a mountain of obligations for yourself.
Yep.
After you start making a lot of money. Right. And that's usually houses, cars, or credit card debt, whatever that would be.
Yep.
At that point. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So what would be the second trap then? So let's say now maybe I own my own practice and I'm doing pretty well. What's that next trap that you see a lot of people get into?
Well, the next, now let's say you've been practicing for
10 years,
15 years, you're 40 years old, give or take, making good money for a while. The traps that I see there are, I guess, kind of extensions of the first trap, because now people are like, oh, I need a house on the water. I need somewhere to go on the weekend. My life is stressful. Business is stressful. Being an owner, I need a place to relax. And you know what? I deserve it. And yeah, that often echoes as second homes, lake homes, that kind of stuff.
And what have you seen for the most part when people buy these second homes and such?
Most of the time, it
creates more anxiety than it does relief.
Yeah. Yeah, because now you have two places to worry about. If you're in cold weather, or not even cold weather. I had a client, I'll say it, she wouldn't care. I have a client in Texas who has two houses, and during that great freeze a couple of years ago, the pipes in her second house froze over and burst, and water went everywhere for 2 days. She's about 98% fixed, but she is still not repaired fully today.
How about our friend in Minnesota that bought a second home in Fort Myers, Florida?
Oh, good friend. Yep.
How about that friend?
Yeah, that hurricane. It was a
oh boy, that hurricane.
That was a dose of reality right there.
Yeah. Bought a second home right in Fort Myers, and a year later, buried by a hurricane. Yep, buried by a hurricane. Okay. And it's not so much like it's gonna. I mean, I think it did end up costing him some cash, for this thing, out of his pocket.
It's not just cash though, too. Yeah. It's stress and attention.
That's what I'm talking about. It's the stress. It's the attention. It's things that are going to take away from other things just to say that I have a second home somewhere, just to say that now I have a place that I can go to. Now I can see the value of them.
Yep.
I can totally see the value of having a place that you go, a little retreat,
there's workable ways to do it. I mean, I'll give a good example.
Yeah.
I have a client who they have the big house in the burbs right now. They've got multiple kids, but those kids are getting older. They're going to college or moving out. And they just bought a 2-2 or a 3-2 condo in the downtown area of where they live. And they're not going to live there for probably another 5 years. But in the meantime, they have some friends, I think friends from church, if I'm not mistaken, are renting the place from them. So they have somebody in there that they can trust to care for the property, who's paying their mortgage. It's not really profitable. It's not meant to be, but it's paying the mortgage. And, now they have their retirement home to go to.
Yeah. Again, there's going to be anecdotal.
Yeah, there's 1,000
stories
shades of gray.
Of these things. I just think by and large, people get into these second homes in the wrong condition.
Yep.
Okay. They just get into them in the wrong condition. When they've just started to taste a little bit of financial success, it's like the first thing they want to do. And it's when people start channeling all the reserve money that they're putting away or building income streams. And now all that money gets consumed by the second home purchase.
Yes, that's the issue. Yeah.
Okay. That's the trap. That's the trap. So it's not so bad that if you want to, because look, I've seen people that have, gotten into that range where they're starting to make some money. They're probably making over $400,000 or $500,000 a year personal income. And then they've gotten a little content for sure.
Yep.
And now they're going to start out. They want to buy something bigger. They just want a bigger version of bad debt. Okay. And so then, okay, great. But then they start pulling money away from what they were doing that was successful.
Yeah. And that's the issue is they buy this big house and then what, like you said, they cut their Everbank or they cut their whatever to make it work. And, they always justify it by saying, well,
I'll get it back going again.
The house will appreciate. And
yes.
Maybe it will, but
or they raid. Yeah.
It's not going to appreciate fast enough to replace you saving 10% of your revenue.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the trap. And then all of a sudden they have this huge obligation and then the business starts to, then they have a bad year in the business or a bad month in the business.
Yeah.
Which they thought this business was like just foolproof. Like nothing bad would ever happen to the business at all.
Yep.
Like I'd never lose an associate. No way. Never going to lose an associate.
Yes, you will.
Or I'm never going to lose this, or it's always going to be consistent. And they don't really realize how risky their practice is.
Yep.
So I think that there's nothing, like I said, we want people to expand. And I've seen people that have actually gotten their second homes, and what did it do? It increased their necessity level, which is what it should do.
Yeah, it can be a good thing in rare circumstances.
It can definitely be a good thing. But I think by and large, you guys just, it's not going to necessarily make you that much happier.
No.
And so I would, everyone's going to be in a different situation, but by and large, I'm like, is this really necessary? I mean, unless you get a fabulous deal on something like that. Yeah, and you got
to also consider like, okay, if I have a lake house and I go there, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year.
Yep.
All the costs that go to maintain and all the stress. If you're only going there a couple times a year, why don't you just Airbnb a place?
And even that, I mean, I've heard people that have done that. Well, we're just going to Airbnb it. That'll cover the costs. And I would love to see the financials on how much is actually spent on that thing versus how much they've actually.
Airbnb, especially right now. I mean, a couple of years ago before prices shot up and interest rates, it was a moneymaker, but now there's a lot of flops in the Airbnb market. It's a very, very oversaturated market.
Yeah, I believe that.
So
I believe that. Okay, what's the last trap that you see?
I mean, I think those are the big ones, is second homes, all the frivolous spending, second homes, more expensive cars, bigger house, bigger, better. But I mean, there's other odds and ends. I mean, one that I don't think gets enough attention, but a timeshare.
Yeah.
A timeshare is never a investment. Say it with me.
I mean, I don't know much about those, to be honest with you. Like how do those work to that?
So basically someone takes a condo, they subdivide it where, a bunch of people chip in to pay for it. And so you bought your fractional share per se.
Mm-hmm.
And then each year, now that you own it, along with, 40 other couples, but now that you own it, every year you have the maintenance expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So, the big cost is up front, but the issue is, number one, in a timeshare, you're never going to find somebody to buy you out of that timeshare, right? I can go on eBay right now. I could do screen share, go on eBay. I can show you thousands of timeshares for $1,
Really?
Oh God. Yeah. Hundreds of pages. You can't, there's no secondary market, but since there's no secondary market and you're actually an owner, you're stuck for life. Assuming you can't sell it, there's some, like Disney timeshares I've heard you can actually sell. But outside of that, if you have a timeshare in Cancun, you're never going to sell it.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with it for life. You have to make those maintenance payments for life. And then here's the kicker. When you die, it's like a home deed. It goes to your kids. And if your kids aren't on top of their stuff and know that they can, I forget the technical term, but disavow that portion of the will, once the kid takes it over, now they're stuck for life.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What is the benefit of that?
I mean,
how is it sold to people that it's a benefit?
I mean, it's sold as you can keep vacationing here over and over again, because after you pay off the down payment, the buy-in, you just have those maintenance costs each year. But, I guess if you go to the same exact place, if you go to the same geographic location every year and you like staying at the same hotel every year, if you do it over a 20, 30-year period, the timeshare is actually cheaper than just booking hotels and going. But the reality, how many people do you know want to go to the same place every year and stay at the same venue every year?
People have one fun experience, and then we're such creatures of habit. Yeah, it's like, I think I want to go to this place every single year.
And that's why timeshares get sold to you while you're there, because you're caught up in the excitement, and it's like, hey, don't you want to do this again next year?
Yeah.
All you got to do is sign. It's only 15 grand, 20 grand.
Yeah, I think the richest experiences are going to be just going. I always love going from place to place to place, and I don't have to.
Me too. I don't want to go to the same place twice
every year
generally.
Yeah. If I do, I'll rotate like the Olympics, I'll go from this place to this place, to this place, to this place. It's just not like I don't want to go to the same place every single year.
Yep.
That doesn't seem like a whole lot of fun,
No, not to me, but some people, yeah, I guess it's sold somehow. I don't know how, but it's.
Yep. I get it.
So that's, trying to think if there's any other traps.
Well, I'm going to say the last trap is the kid trap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's the kid trap at this point in time.
What part?
Well, really, it's not so much when the kids are younger, because kids aren't very expensive when they're young. I don't think so. No, they're not. It's just
young kids are cheap.
Yeah, young kids are cheap. It's when they start getting into when they're young adults, and you get into the trap of over providing for your kids at that point in time. Okay.
Yep.
And I see it all the time where it is. That I don't, under no circumstances should a kid have a $65,000 car when they're 16 years old.
Oh God, no.
Okay. I don't care, if it's Jeff Bezos or unless you're one of those people. Okay. But under no circumstances should your kids have a car that expensive, No. And there's no attachments to it as far as responsibilities are concerned.
Yep.
With it as well. Okay.
There's that. There's college. There's another one.
There's the college trap.
I see a lot of clients who, nobly want to pay 100% of their kids' school. And I would have, don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have 100% of school paid at the time. But now that I look back on it, most of the people who had a free ride, kind of blew it because they don't have any skin in the game.
So you should definitely be able to help your kids, but you should not sacrifice your financial future for them to that degree.
You can't stop saving for retirement to pay for college so that your kid doesn't have to take out a student loan.
Exactly. No.
That's ridiculous.
So do what you can. Okay. But do not sacrifice your quote unquote retirement or your wealth building, or whatever, what you're doing for your kids.
No.
Okay. It's a trap. It really is. and they'll be fine. They'll get along. They will. All right. But teaching them, I think those habits early on are really, really important. We're kind of going through this right now, or I'm just like, you got to give them a set amount of money every month and say, this is what you got, right? Work it out.
Yeah. Teach them good financial habits.
Yeah, exactly. Said, work it out. This is what you get, and if you can't make it go right on this, everybody else has to. Everybody else has to manage this. So I think it's the trap of over providing for children.
I could agree with that.
Trying to pay way too much for them, and overburdening yourself so that they don't quote unquote have any obligations.
Yep.
I mean, they're going to learn better when they have a little stress and necessity on them.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think I think if we can avoid those traps right there, and again, it's not like you have to just throw them out in the middle of the street and say, go fend for yourself. That's not what I'm talking about.
No,
it's not what I'm talking about.
It's just basics. Have them work, have them, don't give them everything for free.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that hard. I know it's hard, but it's I'm telling you, it's the moms. I'm going to get in trouble for that. The moms.
I don't know if it's the moms. I think it's the dads too.
Think it is? You think it's the dads?
Yeah. I think it's everybody.
Maybe you're right, Gersch.
Thankfully, most of our clients, I think, are, I would say the majority of our clients are in the realm of, the kid having their kids work for them and teaching responsibility. I don't see a ton of clients buying their 16-year-old a brand new BMW, but it happens. So.
Can't believe when I see that. I'm just like, what in the world? But all right. Okay, good, man. Well, those are the traps. Try to avoid them, and make sure that if you guys have difficulties, don't go at it alone. You can always reach out to us. Go to econologicsfinancialadvisors.com, and we can certainly you can connect with us. Get a plan going. It is, virtuous and righteous for you to have money, and it is your obligation to do well financially for yourself and your family. We'll see you next time.